No, alcohol is not liquid courage. Alcohol is really liquid dum-dum. Hey, in today's episode, and this is episode 4, I'm going to be talking about drugs and alcohol because drugs and alcohol can affect the relationship. And let me just start off and tell you that most people use drugs because of the way it makes them feel. And I've never had a client tell me, Mr. Johnson, I use drugs because they make me feel miserable. I've never heard that. It's usually because it gives them a sense of euphoria and it makes them feel good. And sometimes I have clients who use to keep withdrawals at bay. The most popular used drug is alcohol, followed closely by marijuana. And I think it's just a matter of time before marijuana overtakes alcohol. And I gotta tell you, this is just something that annoys me. Marijuana is considered a Schedule 1 drug. And what that means, people, is that the drug is highly addictive and there are no medical uses. That's what it means for a drug to be a Schedule 1 drug. And I don't want our platform to be about anything really political, but we can thank President Richard Nixon for starting the war on drugs and causing marijuana to be a Schedule 1 drug. Most professionals in the field disagree with this scheduling of marijuana. Anyway, that's just a pet peeve. We have basically 3 classes of drugs. We have stimulants, we have depressants, and we have psychedelics. All of these drugs will compromise the brain behind the forehead, which is the prefrontal cortex or the frontal lobe. And this part of your brain is really your executive manager. This is what manages you. This is what tells you to say something nice to your colleagues or do something nice for your family. But once it's compromised, it's almost like being on an airplane without a pilot and there's no autopilot. It's like being on a bus and there's no bus driver. That would be incredibly dangerous. So we want to, if at all possible, keep the frontal lobe online. But once you get high on a drug or extremely emotional, you compromise your frontal lobe. And sometimes it just shuts off. The problem is the only brain you have left running is in the middle of your head, and it's called the amygdala. It's about as big as maybe a little pecan or something like that. It's responsible for fight, flight, or freeze. That's it. And a lot of times we refer to the amygdala as the lizard brain. It's the animal brain. It's the dum-dum brain. It doesn't do math problems. It doesn't do 2 + 2 is 4 or 4 + 4 is 8. It doesn't tell you, say something nice to your wife. It really only can do fight, flight, or freeze. And this is the reason some people might say, well, when somebody is drunk, they get mean. They're really violent. That's where we get these kind of sayings from. Let's switch gears just a little bit. I want to talk about alcohol. Remember, alcohol is the most widely used drug. It's legal. Now, I want to give a little history. In 1919, alcohol was made illegal. This is the start of Prohibition. Think about Al Capone or, grandma and them running moonshine on the back roads. This is during that time, right after 1919. The problem is when they would make alcohol, they would use a lot of contaminants. And actually, a lot of people probably don't realize a lot of people died from drinking moonshine and that kind of thing. But the demand was just overwhelming. So in 1933, they legalized alcohol. Alcohol, you should know, is poison. Alcohol is like rotten vegetation. This is how you make alcohol. You take the vegetation, let's say a grape, and I hear this from some of my clients who've been incarcerated. They make hooch by just taking whatever the vegetation is, like some grapes, leave them in a bowl and just let them rot. What happens is inside of the vegetation, there's yeast, and the yeast consumes the sugar or the glucose. And when the yeast consumes the glucose, the byproduct is ethanol. And ethanol is just another name for alcohol, and that is poison. Okay, so when you consume alcohol, you're compromising all of your organs. And if you consume a lot of alcohol, you're going to really compromise your liver. And trust me, you need your liver. Your liver is how you burn off the alcohol. It's the way you metabolize the alcohol. So let me also give you a little information, because this could be helpful, how the body burns off alcohol. Typically, it takes 1 hour for the body to burn off or metabolize one drink of alcohol. Now, here's the key. I've noticed that when people come in after they receive the DWI, they'll tell me something like, Mr. J, I only had one drink. That's all I had was one drink. And I'll say, well, what'd you drink? And they'll say something like, I had a Coke 45. I was like, really? You had a Coke? Well, how much was it? And they'll say something like, well, it was a 24 ounce or it was a 40 ounce. And they don't realize that might be one can, but that's not one drink. So let me go through the CDC guidelines for what a drink is, okay? One drink of beer, which typically has the least amount of alcohol in it, is actually 12 ounces. It's not 24 ounces. It's 12 ounces, okay? That's one drink of beer. One drink of a malt liquor or an IPA type of beer, one drink is 8 ounces, okay? One drink of wine is really only 5 ounces. I've had clients come in and say, Mr. Johnson, I don't really drink a lot of alcohol. I was like, well, what do you drink? They'll say, I just maybe a bottle of wine every night. And most bottles of wine are like 25 ounces, and if one drink is 5 ounces, they've had 5 drinks. That's a lot of drinks. Okay, liquor. One drink of liquor is 1.5 ounces. That is the size of a standard shot glass. I should have brought some glasses, but at any rate, that's the size of a standard shot glass. So it can't be one of these exaggerated 3-ounce glasses. That's actually 2 drinks. So we got to know what a drink is. So when somebody comes in and they said, I only had 2 Mike's Hard Lemonades. A Mike's Hard Lemonade is an example of like a malt liquor. So one drink is 8 ounces, but the typical bottle size of a Mike's Hard Lemonade is almost 12 ounces. So actually, that's a drink and a half. So if you've had 2 of those, you've had 3 drinks. Now, let's look at how many drinks does it take to hit the legal limit of 0.08% blood alcohol content. BAC can stand for blood alcohol content or blood alcohol concentration. And what that is it's a representation of all the blood in your body. 0.08% of it, if it's alcohol, you've reached the legal limit. And at that limit, you're compromised. Now remember, alcohol will compromise your frontal lobe, and your frontal lobe is where your inhibition lies. So once you compromise your frontal lobe and it shuts off, you don't have any more inhibition. Inhibition is what keeps you, when you have that coworker that's really annoying and you feel like, I'd really like to slap the mess out of, but you don't do it because of your inhibition. But if you have enough alcohol, you might dance butt naked in front of people you don't know because you have no inhibition. And this can be dangerous, okay? So let's look at how much we drink and our blood alcohol content. Typically, per the CDC, it only takes about 2 drinks for the average human to hit 0.08%. Just 2 drinks. And remember, you need to know what a drink is. It's not one of those large 16 or 24 ounce Trulies out of a convenience store. No, that's way more than 1 drink. In most cases, that's a malt liquor. That's like 3 drinks. Now, if you're going to go out to dinner and have a drink, that's okay. Now, I don't recommend you drink and drive, but if you're going to go out and have a drink, remember to sit an hour because that's generally how long it takes to burn off that drink. If you're going to have 2 drinks, it's not a bad idea to sit 2 hours, at least sit an hour, burn off what you've had to drink. If people understood what a drink was, there might not be so many people getting DWIs. Drinking alcohol can compromise you, and it can affect the you that you present to your mate. I want to take a couple of questions from some of our viewers.
Mr. J, I have a question. I thought alcohol was liquid courage.
You thought alcohol was liquid courage.
That's what I was told.
Okay. No, alcohol is not liquid courage. Alcohol is really liquid dum-dum because it compromises your frontal lobe.
Do I have a problem with alcohol if I only drink on the weekends?
Probably. Per the CDC guidelines, can drink 2 drinks a night or a day. But if he drinks more than that, that's considered excessive. A woman can drink 1 drink a night or a day. If she drinks more than 1, that's considered excessive. So a man can drink 14 drinks a week, but if he goes over that, that's considered excessive. A woman can drink 7 a week. If she goes over, that's excessive. And since we're talking about this, let's talk about binge drinking. If you're a man, if you drink 5 or more drinks, that's considered a binge. If you're female, if you drink 4 or more drinks, that's considered, that's a binge. That's binge drinking. If you're pregnant, you should not be drinking. And if you're underage, you shouldn't be drinking.
Is it possible to be a high-functioning alcoholic? Because I don't have a problem when I go to work. I mean, I still do my job. You know, alcohol don't bother me. I mean, I use it to sleep at night. Go to work the next day, I'm good to go. You know, as long as I have me a little sip.
If you put your hand in a fire just a little bit, it's probably going to get burned, right? Mm-hmm. And again, this may be an exaggeration, but you know how they say you can't be a little bit pregnant? You're being compromised with each and every drink. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm on a high horse and alienate everybody that likes to drink. Because I want to put this in perspective. For those out there who enjoy drinking, okay, yeah, it does relax you a little bit. But you mentioned something about sleep. No, you're not going to get a great sleep. Alcohol will depress the central nervous system, but it interferes with the hormones that allow you to get REM sleep, rapid eye movement, deep restorative sleep. So no, alcohol is not good for getting rest or getting sleep.
Somebody said that you really can't be addicted to alcohol because it's legal. Sugar is legal. Coffee is legal. I drink sugar. I mean, I use sugar. I drink sugar. I put sugar in my coffee. I have that every day.
I love this book. I just want to plug it. Addiction is when you're out of control. That means you can't, let's say you open a bag of potato chips, you get ready to watch a movie and you tell yourself, I'm only going to eat 5 of these chips. That's it. I'm only going to eat 5 chips. And halfway through the movie, you're looking at the inside the bag. It's like, oh my God, I ate all of the chips. That's an example of being out of control. Also, you need 3 factors to kind of be an addict. And I know addict is not a word that's in vogue today, but most people know what I mean when I say it. So you got to be out of control. You got to suffer withdrawals. It's kind of like you tell somebody, no, you can't have any more sugar, and they just crash out. And you have tolerance. Tolerance is you started off drinking a beer or 2 and you felt, wow, I feel kind of nice. You know, I don't mind being at this work function. You know, so-and-so's not as stuck up as I thought because I had 2 drinks. But after a while, you're going to need 4 drinks to get you to that place. That's an example of tolerance. And before long, you're drinking a fifth of liquor. Addiction is not a moral failing. The opposite of addiction is not, sobriety or stop using. The opposite of addiction is connection. Dr. Nzinga Harrison, she kind of details that in this book. I guess to recap, again, I'm talking about drugs and mainly alcohol and how it affects the relationship. Just know that you're compromising your frontal lobe, and your frontal lobe is responsible for what you do. That is your executive manager. And remember, I know this is episode 4, but in the first episode, we talked about how important it was to validate your person. And it just becomes much more difficult a thing to do when your brain is compromised. I hope that was informational, but if you have questions, please put them in the comments, okay? And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. See you later.